Good morning, everyone. We'll give everyone a couple of minutes to walk in just in case. Okay, cool. Well, we'll start then. So good morning. Welcome to First Sunday. This is a tradition we've been doing for a couple of years, I believe. Anne and Harvey usually are here to lead it, but they are right now in Colorado, and they'll be back, I think, today, actually. They've been at a conference working on translation. It's a wonderful thing, an international translation conference that they've been at. So they asked me to take care of their birds and to give the First Sunday talk. So I wanted to talk about about compassion and the four boundless thoughts. It's something that we have on the group practice prayers we've got at the very top here. We call it the aspirations and the way of the Bodhisattva prayer. So maybe let's just look at it. Let's just say it together before we actually talk about it. It's usually, because it's a prayer, we might put our hands together to kind of give it reverence. And I'll sing the tune. May all beings always have happiness and its causes. May all beings always be free of pain and its causes. May all beings always be pain-free and live happily. May no beings ever cling to those near nor spurn those far. For as long as space abides, as long as the world remains, just so long may I be there, resolving all beings' pain. So I started watching Buddha on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's like basically an Indian telenovela about Buddha's life. I'm only about partway in, but the Buddha's father is, or I guess he's I forget his name, but the king, the prince, the head of the state there. He's a very kind, open. Whenever he's very benevolent, and but then there's kind of the evil antagonist, and the evil antagonist is the conniving person is able to kind of read everyone's emotions and able to think through things. It's portrayed almost like having compassion and being loving is almost like makes you a fool, almost makes you vulnerable and makes it bad, whereas being sharp and being able to connive is almost better, is almost safer in a way. That's almost, at least in the beginning, how it comes off. And that's not what we in Buddhism at least hold. That's not, and hopefully we all have experience in our lives that that's not necessarily the case. And it's something that I didn't actually appreciate at first when I was trying to learn these things. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. And also too, I wanted to talk about it because dealing with, so these four aspirations at the beginning are tied to, in order, loving kindness, or kind of wishing well towards others, having compassion, wishing to see others free of pain, finding joy in others, and also having equanimity and kind of evenness in our life. And these are things, and their counterparts, when they're not there, are stuff that we struggle with and that we navigate every day, every minute. I know I do it at work all the time when I'm at home with my wife. These are things that we need to interact with people, even with ourselves. It's how we have relationships. So they're very important and very useful. So for anybody who thinks that it's hard to bring practice to their daily life, this is at least one way, one avenue to do so, to have these things in your heart. So, and also too, especially like what we see with that second part that we chanted, for as long as space abides, as long as the world remains, just so long may I be there, resolving all beings' pain. That right there is this aspiration that really is kind of is the groundwork for later movements of Buddhism, for Mahayana Buddhism. It's the groundwork for the motivation in Tibetan Buddhism, which is more or less that's the main thing that Anne and Harvey teach at this place. It's very important in Chinese Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism, Vietnamese Buddhism to a degree as well, Korean Buddhism. And so to talk about this motivation of wanting to be there to help all beings is also essential. I'm not going to talk about that as much because I'm going to talk about the four boundless states, the compassion, love, joy, and equanimity, they do lead into, and they're the support, the kind of the where that motivation, what we call bodhicitta, this awakening mind, is born. But this, I want to talk about that because it's something that we deal with every day. So the first line: may all beings always have happiness and its causes. It's a little bit different than how we talk about love, how we normally talk about love in the West. We have different words for love. We might say, platonic love, more like lusting love, romantic love. This is pretty much what it says. It says it's a wish of may all beings, and it may be one being at a time. Wow, may you be happy. May you also have, may you also be able to have happiness later. May you know how to get happiness later. The idea is to be able to just be happy for someone and to hope that they do have happiness. The next one, compassion. May all beings always be free of pain and its causes. It's nice to wish people well and to think everyone does have that capacity for happiness, but it's also nice to realize that we all are dealing with suffering. Life sucks. We're all dealing with it to some degree. A lot of people in this world are dealing with stuff that comes at them that they were born into, given their circumstances. And we all, regardless of how well off we're doing right now and how well off we were born, we are all creating, stuck patterns, and we're all inflexible in some way and have our own habitual patterns that lead us into being not less flexible, to being less present, to being less available for ourselves and others. And so we're wishing that people are free of that. We're wishing it for ourselves, we're wishing it for others. And we're also wishing that people are able to figure out what leads to that and that they can be free of that. The third one, may all beings always be pain-free and live happily. So it's a little different than Tibetan, and that's why I pulled out here my cheat sheet. Dugnal mebe dewa tang me jalwar girchik. So it actually says, it's tough to make things chantable. Kudos to Anne. So may no being ever part from the happiness which is free from all suffering. So basically the sense of, it's kind of a way of glossing, saying may all beings actually have enlightenment. May beings always have, be stable in nirvana. And up until then, may they have any kind of happiness, whatever happiness they have now, may they already have it. Not just, it's a little bit different than love because this is a sense of, I want you to be happy. And even if it's not here now, I want you to get it. Whereas this is, wow, if let's say Bill Gates, he already has, I don't know how many $1 billion, like, wow, that's awesome, great for him. I hope he gets to enjoy that. I hope he gets to enjoy that up until he gets enlightenment. The idea here is that it's a counterpart to jealousy. We'll talk more about that later. And the last one, may no beings ever cling to those near nor spurn those far. The Tibetan's slightly different. The idea is that usually people that we don't like, we keep far away. And so we're saying we want beings to be free of both hatred and aversion itself, but also that process of pushing people away. And may they also not have to cling to those who are near. So the idea is that people don't have to get stuck, caught up in holding close to friends, fighting over pushing people away, ignoring people that they don't even know. That there's kind of an equanimity that we can all treat people on the same page. So, and there are ways to meditate on this. The Buddha, and even in the oldest scriptures, there's a wonderful passages about different ways that the Buddha taught us how to meditate on these. We've had multiple variations and all these wonderful flavors of ways that we've learned to practice this over the last 2,500 years. And the idea, sometimes we hear it about going up on a hill and saying all beings to the north or right in front of me, and sending out love, then to the east, to the west, to the east, back, top, down, and almost like the world is suffused with love. There might be teachings on, you pick one person at a time. You might pick someone who's easy to have this emotion for, and really get into it and really make it more natural. And then you spread it to someone who it's a little bit harder to, maybe someone you don't know, someone you actually, it's hard to have that positive emotion for. And that way you're almost kind of like, it's almost like going to the gym. It's like strengthening those muscles, making it more easy to come. And then two, there's also meditating on the quality itself and having it merge with space, with wisdom, and letting it be actually suffused and present, omnipresent in some way. Having it be at at the fundamental core of your experience. So those are some nice ways. Now, I had some hangups actually when I first learned this. In foundational practices, Lundro is the other word, something that is a traditional practice that you may do in depth and also on a daily basis. There's talk about meditating on compassion until you're wailing, until your hairs are standing on edge and you can't handle anymore. I want all beings to be free of suffering. And it's such a wonderful idea, but you're supposed to do it to the point of like pain, to utter pain. And that was, and then later on you read, when we're saying, especially like the Bodhicitta verses, that last one, may I be around for to relieve all beings. There's some other versions where you're meditating with other people and you're meditating with all of the beings and you're addressing the Buddhas, what you consider kind of your ultimate refuge, ultimate reality, and you want everyone else to feel the same way. And you're like, well, it kind of sucks. I don't want other people to be all, sad and burdened by this. It seems, I didn't really understand that at first. It seemed like I was trying to create a product in myself. Like I need to have this like undying, utter sadness and seeing other people suffering. And I have to make sure I'm always carrying that. And that in of itself is a lot of work. And then the emotion itself can be quite sad. That was at least my perspective. If you read in, if I had done my homework, I may have realized at the time that's not necessarily the case. But I think for me, when that really dissolved, that hang up for me of that, I need to have compassion. I need to always be thinking about how other different ways that people suffer. I need to be sad for them. I need to be always trying to always this production, this product I was creating. We did a program called CCT, Compassion Cultivation Training, which is it's very much informed by Buddhism. It's a wonderful program. It's also informed by neuroscience. There was another participant, and they were talking about one day about how she felt like, for her, how she was able to expand her compassion was by letting people in. Her sense of having compassion for something was letting people in. That was shocking to me, because to me it was about sending something out, and you have to someone's out there, I need to send them something. I need to have to give them something. And this was her talking about letting someone in. I didn't understand it at first. I knew I could sense that there was something in it. The sense of her being available for someone else, of being able to settle, to be aware of her own self, where she may not be, ways that it may be hard for her to feel connected with someone, to really wish well for someone else, but then to hold that and to let that settle, to let it not override her, and then let someone else in and let them partake of a relationship with her. It was such a beautiful metaphor, and it really shifted something for me. And as we've learned more and more, talking with Anne and Harvey, with Lama Tenzin, with some of our teachers here, I've heard more and more about how compassion and love, these things are actually expressions of reality. These are things that are immediately present. These are qualities that we can access at any given moment. These aren't, in the ultimate sense, when we get to get to the Omega, when we get to Buddhahood. These are things that aren't something that we have to create. In fact, if we're trying to make effort in creating something, if we're stressing over something, right then and there, it's already a little bit of it's a form of samsara. It actually means that we're not actually hitting reality. So a sense of, Anne and Harvey really talk about relaxation and about being able to be present. To hula is what Rinpoche says. It's a hard word to say. It means to relax in Tibetan. You have to be relaxed to say hula. If you're tense, you say hula. Yeah, hula, hula. So I think too that it's important to know that if we have presence, if we're able to be relaxed, first of all, we're able to let go of whatever is driving us, and then within that relaxation, be aware of whatever's going on. If there is some spinning still going on, spinning into stress, into worrying about getting rid of something or creating something, into some sort of negative emotion not letting us be present, we're not going to be able to have compassion or love for people as easily. And so the practice we're going to do at 11 is a wonderful way for us to get ready for and implicitly actually develop and make space for these wonderful qualities that are themselves expression of wisdom in a way. let's see, what else do I want to say? I could talk for a couple hours on this, so I'm just trying to give you guys a little flavor of what I think is important. So let's see. So I think the one last thing I'd like to say, because we only have a few minutes left, is just to start with equanimity. It's the last one in the 4 lines that we say. May no beings ever cling to those near nor spurn those far. We usually we're taught to start with that, actually, when we're making space for love, compassion, joy. And the idea is that I actually heard one Tibetan teacher say, unless you have equanimity, you shouldn't even bother trying to formally cultivate love or compassion or joy. They'll go that far to say that that's how important it is to leave space for that. It's not a sense of like dispassion or like I have friends, okay, I shouldn't care about them. Attachment is bad. Desire is bad. So I'm just going to leave my friends to the side. It's not a sense of, these people are really giving me trouble. These people are, at work, they just, they're creating problems for everyone. And you know what? It's bad to be upset about it. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to just, be apathetic. And it's also the same point. There's tons of people out there we don't know. And it's not like, well, I don't know them, so I'm not doing them any harm. It's not about being separate. The idea is if we're developing equanimity, we should be adding something actually into any of the relationships that we have with people we love. The idea is that there's a lot of cognitive ways that you might meditate. Putting some thoughts out there, and then sitting with them, letting them kind of percolate through your body. So there might be some cognitive meditations where you might say, well, friends, can quickly become enemies. And, an enemy could quickly become your friend if you knew how to interact with them right. And there's also some talk within, the Buddhist cosmology of rebirth, the sense that we've all been through this together. We've all been through the rigmarole together in different relationships. Maybe in the last life, we were close buddies. Maybe in 2 lives ago, we were like mortal enemies. Maybe 3 lives ago, I killed you. I don't know. Maybe 4 lives ago, you were my pet. I don't know. Or vice versa. The idea is, I think, very close to Buckminster Fuller. He's a really kind of a zany architect and kind of philosophical guy. He liked to use the word spaceship Earth. The idea is that we're all in this together. We all have the capacity to experience pain. We all have the experience. We're all in this room, I guarantee you. We've all lost someone close to us. We've all had to say goodbye to someone for the last time. We all have to do it again. We've all had to deal with something coming at us that we really cannot bear to deal with. We will all die. We all had to go through birth. And we all have the inborn capacity to be Buddhas. So in that way, we're in this together. And people who we don't know on the street, and maybe someone you've never seen before, it's actually, in a way, it's a kind of selfish is a little strong, but the idea is it doesn't have anything to do with them inherently that they're an unknown person. It has nothing to do inherently with my friend being quote unquote a friend person. It's it's something to do from my side. Maybe they smiled at me the right way. They kind of tickled some need that I needed from that I had some lack in my childhood development, and they filled some kind of role. It's kind of in a way selfish from our end to say that people are friend or enemy. It doesn't have anything to do inherently with them. We're all going through our own stresses, and we all have our own ways of putting up barriers and trying to pull people into our lives. And sometimes it creates enemies, sometimes it creates friends, sometimes it means we'll never meet someone. So in a way, if we can let go of our own selfish our own perspective and leave space for realizing we're all in this together, there may be something we can learn from each other, and I think that's really important, and that is something that's very important to me. Let's see. There was one other thought that I didn't have time to build up to, but I'll just skip to it. This is kind of a non sequitur. I was reading when I was at the gym. I took my phone as my Kindle, and I was reading a book again I hadn't read in many years, and I was reading on this topic. Jigme Lingpa, one of our, he was around around pretty much the same time as the American Revolution, doing his awesome stuff. When he was saying about generating love, I thought this was really sweet. He said, "Imagine dressing everyone in your finest clothes." I thought that was kind of sweet. I don't know. It hit me really funny. I mean, I'd read this like a few times, and I never realized I'd read it until yesterday. I mean, and so I actually tried it. There was some guy, and I was on the stairs, and this guy was on the treadmill in front of me, and I just imagined, giving him, as if he was dressed up, and I had given him, my shirt I like the best at work, and I was, I picked out, the right tie, the tie that I like that would match that, and it's kind of fun. It was a way, our clothes are very, they're very much us. They're very much how we identify ourselves. And to give them away, I mean, they have, at least for me, I usually give them away when there's already like 3 holes and there's a couple stains. So to give it away at the height of its excellence, its splendor was interesting. And it wasn't a burden. It was actually quite nice. And this was an experiment, obviously. And the idea is all these things should be, here we go, here we can make use of this. All these exercises, thinking any of these thoughts, shouldn't, if they bring up pain and they bring up tension, that's okay. We can make use of that, look into it, maybe learn from it, see why it is that it's hard for us to have these emotions. But, we should never, it's not like the sense of, I hate to compare to Christianity, but there is a bit of the onus is on doing the act. Here, the idea is on building the capacity. It's fine to do these little exercises. If there's a guy on the street who's asking for money and you really, it's just too much for you to give, to a homeless guy, that's okay. You can build in, you can at least in that space make use of some other intention, maybe wishing them well, maybe saying in the future, maybe I'll be able to help him. The idea is we don't need to feel bad if we can't do this 100%. This should be like going to the gym. We should expand ourselves every little bit. And when there's a problem, when there's a hiccup, let's sit with it, look into it. So for me, I didn't have this hiccup. I probably would have like 5 years ago. If I'd done this, I would have gotten really tense, like, oh, I can't give away my clothing. But it was very nice to give this guy, in that moment to be free enough to say, well, he deserves it too. How great, maybe he'd enjoy it. He'd look good on it. That'd be great. It worked a little. It wasn't as easy with other women. I had to imagine like giving like someone else's clothes. So that was a lot of roundabout thoughts. But for me, I mean, when I first heard these teachings, they're in all corners of Buddhism, maybe talked about in different ways. But I remember when Lama Tenzin came and taught these, I remember thinking these could change the world. And I know Anne and Harvey have said the same thing. They are. Have you guys heard that quote? The quote from the Buddha. If something about like lighting a candle and it can light 1,000 other candles. Have you guys heard that quote? Okay, apparently it's not the Buddha. There's some idea of it works very well for Buddhism. The idea is like like having compassion is like lighting a candle. It's not like if by using your candle to light someone else's, it takes away from your candle. It's something that can spread like wildfire. It's like a gift that keeps on giving. Works very well. And I always thought it was a quote from the Buddha. Turns out it's not. It's just, but it works well. We can say it's a Buddhist quote, but it's not from the Buddha. So that's what these mean to me, is that these are things that, as I've explored these, they've been able to help me let go of my own shit, sit and be present with others, and be available for others, as opposed to creating a product and always having to worry about it. And holy crap, always getting stuck and creating more suffering for myself. Have found in time that these are things that make me more present, stable, and get through the day a little bit better. And I really think that with these, we could change the world. Yep. So it's 11:01. So we'll end this part. But since I don't know if other people come, does anyone have anything they want to say? Any questions? Here, let's pass it the mic so that people afar can partake of our exchange.
So it's not like a question or anything? But when you said you could talk for 2 more hours on this, my first thought was I could listen for 2 more hours. So I'm glad you. I appreciate you.
If you're really gung ho and you have the freedoms and advantages in your life, there are actually 2 years of teachings from Lama Tenzin. He's our teacher who, well, he's kind of like a like an uncle, I guess, in a way. He's kind of like, yeah, he's our Dharma uncle. Um, he's come and visited. He's a longtime practitioner who's been living 10 years in France. No, more than 10 years. He's been teaching in France for many, many years, and is very good at both being traditional and very observant and sensitive to Western sensitivities, sentimentalities. And he taught for at least 2 years on this topic when he came and visited. So there's hours and hours and hours there, and everyone teaches on it. And Harvey have taught about it in many different flavors, probably hundreds of times. So wonderful. I have that same aspiration and keep it. Maybe in 5, 10 years it'll blossom into something. Cool. Do a lot of people need a bathroom break? I kind of do. Thank you for asking. I'm gonna go take a bathroom break. I'll be right back, guys.